If there's one thing people love doing right now, it's bashing the Pixel 11 Pro, and you guys, you kind of agree. I've seen people asking Google do they know what year it is, hating on them for the smaller batteries, and even a few people saying that they are switching away from Pixels. And I get ya. My name's Paul, and for the last 7 days I've been using this phone non-stop for photos, videos. I've put it through its paces, and I agree with you. Kind of agree with you. I want to start with camera because it's probably the big hardware update this year for Google, and I'll be honest, I think they've done quite a good job here. I have definitely noticed some bugs so far. That 5x lens kind of refuses to focus on things like this street sign, this little guy having a drink, and this dancer. And for those of you asking if lens switching during video is any better, I think so. But it's not all bad because I am obsessed with camera looks. Google give you 4 new defaults to pick from: original, natural, shadows, and vanilla. And then you also have a bunch of additional looks. And I feel like this is the one thing you need to play around with straight away because it makes the camera feel really different. These looks aren't just filters that you can get on Instagram. Google has actually said that it's changing that image pipeline for each individual look. So it's stripping away HDR, it's using less frames, or it's just turning down that sharpness. This is why you can't add these looks after the photos are being taken. You need to apply them before, and it gives each picture a kind of unique feel. And a quick tip here is if you turn the quick access controls on in settings, you can actually switch very quickly between all of these looks. I've shot a lot of photos on this phone, and a lot of the photos that you're seeing have been shot in that new vanilla look. Here's the problem though, as much as I love this, I didn't realize that I was shooting all my photos in vanilla. And I'll show you what the problem is. Right now, I'm on one of those 4 default looks, but you can't see that I'm in one of those looks. You can only tell that I'm in one of those looks after you go into the camera and have a look at the photo. But if I then put on something like Digi, for example, you'll then see in this bottom corner, there's now a camera look icon, which shows you that you're shooting in something different that is not one of those default looks. So it can get a little bit confusing. So I hope Google will add this for those 4 default looks, if you're still with me. Let's move on to those 3 lenses, and I'll talk about the ultrawide first. Sadly, I haven't taken that many photos with this lens. For whatever reason, it always ends up being my least used lens, and this is just the exact same as last year, even though I think, in my opinion, it still does a great job. I also would love to talk to you more about the 120 times newly named Pro Zoom. That's right, it's now not called ProRes Zoom, just Pro Zoom. But I don't know, this still isn't really great when you push it to that 120 times. That 5x lens though, that is where I've spent all of my shooting time so far. This is because it's a new lens. Google has jumped from a 1/2.55 inch sensor last year to a much bigger 1/1.95 sensor. And this is meant to let in more light. And I think it does, but you can have a look at 2 photos here, one from the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the 11 Pro XL. And you can tell the 11 Pro XL definitely does let in more light, but I think it's subtle. I have noticed though that in low light, the details, they're still a little bit soft if you really look at it. But in daylight, now this is what I love. You put this 5x lens together with one of those camera looks that you might have dialed in yourself, and I absolutely love it. I just cannot get enough of this. I just love a Google 5x lens. With the main lens, everything looks fairly similar to me. It might be a new sensor, but I feel like everything is kind of the same to my eyes as last year. It's just now that you can dial in how you want that image to look. So everyone's photos from a Pixel are going to look slightly different. But on that default look, I think it's difficult to tell here which one is the 11 Pro XL and which one is the 10 Pro XL. Let me talk to you about video, and I'm going to try and be as positive as I can about video on the 11 Pro XL, but Google, they don't make it easy. For the most part, I think the video on the 11 Pro XL is fine. Stabilization, it can be great on that main lens, but you switch to that 5x lens and any sort of movement just seems overly exaggerated. Those zoom transitions though, going from the ultrawide to the 10x or even the 5x zoom, they're a little bit jittery, but they've definitely got a bit better over the years. And I think the mics on this phone are great for video as well, but then sometimes there are some random jitters on the edge of the image, which is just a little bit disappointing for a $1,300 phone. But there are two things that I love on this Pixel now, that you can shoot in HDR 4K 60 frames a second without having to go into video boost. And Google added in something called creator mode. And I don't know how I feel about creator mode on its own. It's not something that I would massively use, especially considering that Google didn't add a log video recording mode to creator mode. I mean, that is the bare minimum, surely. Like, who's going to want to use creator mode not using log? Having said that though, creator mode has added something that I do like. You now have the ability to save your videos to files inside of Google Photos directly from the camera app. So if you're using your phone to create a project or you go on holiday, you can save your videos directly into that folder and it just organizes everything. And I think this is great. And Google, if you're watching, which I think you might do, if you can add the ability to save your photos to folders, just like you can with your videos, I mean, that would be a godsend. So maybe just add that into the Pixel 11 Pros. In general though, I think video has never been Pixel's strong point, and this year, I don't think that changes. For $1,300, I don't think it gives you quite enough. And then there's that new Pro video stabilization. I thought this was going to be a game changer, but sometimes, like you can see here, it makes the image warp so much that it's really not even worth it. And this only turns on if you use video boost, but I mean, this is not amazing really. And you know my thoughts on video boost already. I hate that it is in the cloud, and I feel like if I just mention this enough in videos, Google will let us turn this on by default, or at least have a quick toggle to quickly turn it on. Having to go into the settings and do this every single time, it's just annoying at this point. And then talking of not amazing, that brings me on to Magic Capture. I think this is an interesting one because in theory, it's great and it kinda works. You get photos without thinking about it, and then you get to keep the video at the same time, and you can even switch orientation and the picture will match whatever way you've set your phone. And you can even set this as the default camera method when you open that camera, which I think is great. However, there is a but here. The photos, they're okay. It can get some decent shots and it can be a little bit hit and miss, but maybe a software update can fix this. But something that a software update really needs to fix is the video. This is terrible. For one, you can only record in 1080p. There is no way to change this to 4K. And just look how bad this video is. It's choppy, it sounds awful. And I would never want to watch this back. It's really bad. If Magic Capture is meant to be this new big thing from Google, it's meant to help you capture your moments without missing them, it needs to do two things. Firstly, it needs to be able to up that video quality. 1080p is terrible, and if you're going to stay at 1080p, at least make the video not as bad as it is at the moment. And B, I think that when you swipe into Magic Capture, it needs to start recording straight away. Otherwise, you kind of just forget about it. Like, I've swiped over before already testing this phone, and I haven't hit the record button, and I've just missed that moment completely. Like, at the moment, I think this is a very good idea, but the execution, I don't think is quite there yet. I've got this far yet and have barely mentioned how the phone is to actually use, and this is a good thing because as a phone it is fantastic, but you're going to be surprised at this. The battery on this thing is absolutely killing it, and I mean that in a good way. My biggest worry, and I'm sure your biggest worry if you haven't bought this phone yet, is the fact that Google decided to drop the battery size from last year. And let me try and make you feel a little bit better about this, because this, I think, is the best battery that I've ever used on a Pixel. Yeah, I know. I didn't expect to be saying that about this phone either. It's like surprisingly good. I don't know if it's the new modem or it's the Tensor G6 or it's kind of like a combination of both, but this phone hasn't got close to running out on me yet. And in fact, I've not even seen that 20% symbol. And I am so happy about this. My biggest complaint always with the Pixel is their battery life is just not good enough. But I feel like Google might have finally done it. I've annoyingly not even had to take advantage yet of the 75% in about 30 minutes charging on this thing because it just won't die. Like, I flew back from the Made by Google event from New York to Manchester, and that flight is like 6 hours. And I was basically on this the whole time. YouTube, I was using the new Starlink internet, so I was properly putting this through its paces. And by the time I landed, it was still like at 30% left. Like, I don't know what Google have done, but it's really good. The phone, it definitely ran hot the first few days, which I kind of expect, but other than that, I honestly don't know what else I could ask for when it comes to battery. My caveat here is that I've only had this a week, and it could get worse with software updates, it could get better, as this hasn't had a software update yet, I don't think. But I mean, let's come back for the long-term review in a couple of months' time and see whether this is holding up. But for now, I have really high hopes about this. If you're worried about the battery, just don't be. Google have smashed it. I'm going to talk about Tensor just for a second, and we know by now that benchmarking a Pixel is kind of pointless. It'll be less powerful than others, but this year it also had less RAM, and I wish I could talk to you about that, but I can't. Let me explain why. Now, when Google give out review devices, like let's say for the 10 Pro XL last year, I got the 256 gig version. They give you the base version, but they haven't done that this year. Google have given all the reviewers that I know the 512 gig version, which means it comes with 16 gigs of RAM. And you can guess, because I've got 16 gigs of RAM on this, the phone has been quick. The whole UI is quick. Apps open quicker. The phone, it does all of its phone stuff well, but I'm not in the right place to tell you that the drop in RAM is or isn't an issue because I haven't tested it. I don't want to say that Google have been sneaky here and they've given out the higher spec storage on purpose because it has 16 gigs of RAM, but I feel like they might have. So actually, it's over to you at this point. Like if you buy a phone, like a base level Pixel 11 Pro, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments on how this phone is coping with 12 gigs of RAM, because I don't know that yet. So if you do, please put it in the comments and help everyone else out, because Google has been a little bit sneaky here with these review devices. I'm going to move on to something new on the phone, and it's something else that I can't even talk to you about, and that is HiLight, because I just don't get it. This only works face down, and I just never put my phone face down on a table. And besides me purposely changing it for this exact shot, I've forgotten that it's there. Like I've not once remembered that HiLight is a new feature on these phones. I think Google have placed this in the wrong spot and kind of killed it out the gate, especially by not letting third-party apps work with this or even messages. I know Google said that this might come in the future, but who knows when the future is? You have to buy a phone based on what it can do now, not what a promise is in the future. So at the moment, like no one should be buying this phone for HiLight. Just, I wouldn't even bother. Away from this phone being brilliant as an actual phone, I always feel like there's a couple of issues with a Pixel. I already mentioned this, I love Pixel UI. It's mostly bloat-free and I find it the simplest version of Android, but the issues that I've had I'm surprised with, especially with 16 gigs of RAM. I've had apps just do this and totally freeze on me more than once. And if I swipe up to the app drawer, the keyboard sometimes just doesn't pop up. And this is not a Pixel 11 Pro issue. I have had this for years. So Google, please, can you finally fix this? It's so annoying. I've also seen a lot of people talk about improved Face ID in low light. This is not a thing. This Face ID is exactly the same as the one that we had last year. And I don't want to be too picky, but I wish the side rails were just not glossy. And maybe it's because the phone is so big, it's just a little slippery. And maybe that's more on me than it is on the Pixel 11 Pro. But I am really jealous of you guys that have got that matte black Pro. I really want this. I have mixed feelings on the 11 Pro XL. It's a very good phone, but it's just at a very bad time. The biggest issue Google have with this though is the price. And I said last year that the Pixel 10 Pro XL missed out on too many pro things to charge top dollar. And while Google has fixed or added a few things, like I love the new battery on this, I just think $1,300, it's always going to be a tough pill to swallow. And I think Google is getting the brunt of this because it's the first one to raise prices and drop RAM. But trust me, Apple, Samsung, over the next 12 months, we're going to see everyone do this. You don't need to upgrade from this phone if you have last year's Pixel or even maybe the years before. This isn't for you, but this is someone's upgrade this year, and for them this is going to be a great upgrade. It's going to be a great upgrade if you're coming from an older Android phone or if you're coming over from an iPhone, because as I said, it's not a bad phone, it's very good. It's just at a bad time, especially when RAM prices are so high, which means the cost of the phone has to go up as well. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I am genuinely curious what you guys think of the Pixel 11 Pro XL, especially now since the reviews are out and you've been able to actually see what the phone is all about. I think it's expensive, but also I still like it. And the fact that they've actually been able to fix the battery issues, That's all I needed. That's all I wanted to see. If you can subscribe to the channel before you head off, I would massively appreciate it, and thank you very much. And if you do that, then I will see you in the next video. See you later.